Have you ever felt butterflies in your stomach? Your breathing quickened? Your mind flooded with negative thoughts, as if a horror movie were playing in your head, just by thinking about a bad possibility? Do you know that feeling that something terrible is about to happen, even without any concrete evidence? Take a deep breath and remember a recent situation in which this happened. Maybe it was before an important presentation, when you received an unexpected message, or simply when thinking about the future. How did you feel? Did your heart race? Did your hands sweat? Did your mind get confused? This tendency to imagine the worst, to turn small problems into major catastrophes, is called catastrophizing. And believe me, it is much more common than you think. This cognitive distortion, this mania of foreseeing the worst possible scenario, can intensify anxiety, paralyze us with fear, and in the long run, even lead to depression. But today, you will learn how to control this tendency, to dominate these negative thoughts and finally regain control of your mind, building a lighter and calmer life. But what exactly does catastrophizing mean? In psychological terms, catastrophizing is a cognitive distortion, that is, a distorted thought pattern that leads us to interpret reality in an exaggerated and negative way. It is as if, suddenly, our mind puts a magnifying glass on problems, transforming small obstacles into real tragedies. Imagine, for example, the following situation. You are a few minutes late for a meeting. A mind that does not catastrophize might think, "It happens. I will let him know that I am on my way." On the other hand, a mind that falls into the trap of catastrophizing might think, "My boss will hate me, I will lose my job, I will never get another opportunity, and my life will be ruined." Do you see the difference? Catastrophizing completely ignores other, more realistic possibilities and focuses exclusively on the worst possible scenario, as if it were the only certainty. It is this mental magnifying glass that distorts our perception and traps us in a cycle of anxiety and worry. This mental magnifying glass that characterizes catastrophizing doesn't just affect our thoughts. It has a profound impact on our mental and physical health. When we repeatedly imagine the worst, our body reacts as if we were actually experiencing the feared situation. This means that the sympathetic nervous system is activated, preparing the body for fight or flight. Stress hormones, such as cortisol and adrenaline, are released into the bloodstream, causing a series of physical symptoms. The heart races, breathing becomes labored, muscles tense, hands sweat. In the short term, this response can be useful in situations of real danger, but when constantly activated by catastrophizing, it becomes harmful. In the long term, this vicious cycle of negative thoughts and physical reactions can lead to the development of anxiety disorders, such as generalized anxiety disorder and panic disorder. In addition to contributing to the onset or worsening of depression, creating a vicious cycle that is difficult to break. The person feels increasingly anxious and depressed, which leads them to catastrophize even more, feeding the cycle. But how do we know if we are falling into this catastrophizing trap? The first crucial step is to learn to identify catastrophic thought patterns. These thoughts usually arise automatically, almost as a reflex, without us stopping to question them. An important tip is to pay attention to phrases that begin with, "What if?" What if I don't get the job? Logically, what if I get sick? What if something terrible happens to my family? These questions in themselves are not necessarily negative, but when they are loaded with a strong emotional charge and accompanied by the belief that the worst-case scenario is inevitable, they become a warning sign. Another sign are extreme words, such as always, never, everything, or nothing. I always mess up. I will never be happy. Nothing works out for me. These exaggerated generalizations also indicate catastrophic thinking. To help you identify these patterns, try doing a simple exercise. Start writing down these thoughts in a notebook or on your cell phone. Over time, you will begin to recognize the triggers that set off these thoughts and the recurring themes that lead you to catastrophize. Now that you can identify catastrophic thoughts, it's time to learn practical tools to break this vicious cycle. The good news is that, with practice and persistence, it's possible to reprogram your mind and adopt healthier thought patterns. Let's look at some effective strategies. Question the validity of your thoughts. This is one of the most powerful techniques. When a catastrophic thought arises, stop and ask yourself, what is the real evidence that this will happen? Are there other possible explanations? For example, if you think if I don't deliver this project on time, I'll be fired. Ask yourself, have there been delays before? What were the consequences? Would my boss really fire me for an isolated delay? Usually the answer is no, and this helps to reduce the intensity of the negative thinking. Seek realistic alternatives. Catastrophizing blinds us to other possibilities. That's why it's important to practice searching for more realistic and balanced alternatives. Instead of thinking, I'll never find a partner, think, meeting people takes time. I'm going to focus on getting to know myself better and cultivating healthy relationships. Cognitive reframing. This technique involves changing the way you interpret a situation. Instead of focusing solely on the negative aspects, look for the positive or neutral aspects as well. For example, if you're thinking, I can't handle this pressure, try changing it to, this situation is challenging, but I have the resources and skills to deal with it. I've overcome challenges before, and I can overcome this one too. Focus on the present. Catastrophizing, which transports us to an imaginary future, is usually negative. To combat this, bring your attention to the present moment. Focus on what you can control right now. If you're anxious about a presentation, focus on rehearsing and preparing instead of worrying about what might go wrong. Deep breathing. Simple breathing techniques can calm the nervous system and reduce anxiety. One effective exercise is diaphragmatic breathing. Place one hand on your chest and the other on your abdomen. Inhale deeply through your nose, feeling your abdomen expand, and exhale slowly through your mouth, feeling your abdomen contract. Repeat a few times. To make the strategies even clearer, let's see how they work in practice, in real-life situations. Imagine the following situation. You are at work and receive criticism from your boss about a project. Instantly, a catastrophic thought arises. My boss hates me. I'm definitely going to get fired. My career is over. Now let's apply the strategies we've learned. First, question the validity of this thought. He's given me positive feedback before. Does a single criticism mean he hates me and that I'll get fired? What are the real chances of that happening? Then try to reframe the situation. Maybe this criticism is constructive and can help me improve my work. I can learn from it and become a better professional. By applying these strategies, you transform a catastrophic and paralyzing thought into an opportunity for growth. Instead of drowning in anxiety and fear, you feel more confident and prepared to deal with the situation more effectively. Mastering catastrophizing is not an easy task, but it is absolutely possible. To recap, we learned that catastrophizing is a cognitive distortion that leads us to imagine the worst possible scenario, intensifying anxiety and contributing to depression. We also saw the importance of identifying these negative thought patterns and, most importantly, we learned practical strategies to combat them, questioning the validity of thoughts, seeking realistic alternatives, reframing situations, focusing on the present, and practicing relaxation techniques such as deep breathing. Remember that change does not happen overnight. It takes constant practice and persistence to internalize these new thought patterns. But believe me, you have the power to control your thoughts and build a more resilient and calm mind. Imagine what your life would be like without the constant worry and anxiety caused by catastrophizing. With the right tools, this reality is within your reach. Now take a moment for yourself and reflect. What is the first small action you can take today to start freeing yourself from catastrophizing? Take that first step. You deserve this peace of mind.